Welcome back to my channel. My name's Lucy and I share videos on the topic of long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome and mind-body approaches that can help those conditions and other conditions with unexplained symptoms. In today's video, I wanted to talk about getting back into exercise after recovering from long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome and chronic pain. So what I'm sharing in this video is based on my own experience and my own thoughts about this topic. I'm not sharing medical or mental health advice. So one of the really huge benefits of recovering from long COVID and chronic fatigue syndrome has been the fact that I've been able to get back into sport. This has been really fantastic for me because I love sport. It's been a huge part of my life. And having been in bed and having suffered so much with chronic fatigue syndrome, it is one of those pinch me moments when I'm able to go for cycles and swims and runs. For anyone who hasn't come across my channel before, the approach that helped me recover was the Mindbody approach. And that is basically thinking about the impact that fear, both conscious and unconscious fear, can have on the nervous system, and understanding how to get out of that fear cycle that we can be stuck in as a result of being unwell and having symptoms for so long. Another big part of that approach is reflecting on emotions that we might not be aware of or paying attention to or expressing and processing. That is not something that I would have expected would help me when I was early on in my illness, but that's what got me better. And for some people, the approach, they come across it and they make really quick progress, but often it involves quite a lot of work and consistency and dedication and effort to make progress, and it can take time. So I'm not going to get into the details of exactly what I did to recover because I've spoken about that in other videos, and a lot of my videos cover various different topics based on the Mindbody approach. But I wanted to talk about a few things that helped me get back into exercise after recovering. So one thing that was very helpful for me, and I think is generally helpful for a lot of people, is reflecting on the relationship that you've had with exercise or sport in the past. So if before you got unwell, you did a lot of exercise, were really dedicated, or were into endurance sports, it can be helpful to reflect on your relationship with exercise. So there might be certain reasons why you would say you exercised a lot in the past. It might be that you really enjoyed it. Your parents put you into a sport at a young age. It might be that that's your whole community, that's your whole life, that's all of your friends are into sports. But then there might also be other deeper reasons that are important to reflect on. So one of them is using sport to manage emotions. And this is something that I definitely was guilty of. And a sign of this is over-exercising, or over-exercising at times when life is a bit more challenging. So going through a breakup or experiencing a loss. For some people, they just really exercise a lot. And I had many occasions where I did that and then I got injured because I was doing way too much at a given time. Other signs would be making decisions that weren't really actually in your best interest in terms of doing well. So I remember doing a really hard run on the day before a race, and it meant I had a really bad race, and I just couldn't help myself go out for that hard run the day before. And then, of course, it didn't really benefit me in any way to do that. Even though I knew it wasn't a good idea, I did it anyway because my way of coping with emotions was to exercise. and I must have had certain emotions. It might have even been anxiety about the race, and I needed to try to release that. Another reason that can be connected to this is to let our body feel tired and get the endorphins from exercise. So we get that positive reward of our body feeling more relaxed and more tired, and also we might be in a better mood. And this also can be a way of avoiding a negative emotion, because we are in many ways just trying to fix it by exercising. And exercise is really good for our mood. For anxiety and depression, exercise can often be prescribed by a GP because it does have a big positive impact. But it also can be a coping mechanism if we don't have other ways of managing emotions, or if we want to make ourselves feel a certain way. I used to really love the feeling of my body being absolutely wrecked after exercise. And some of that was satisfaction in feeling like I had really done a lot, but also it was helping me feel relaxed. And if I hadn't done it, I probably wouldn't have been feeling relaxed. So that is something that sometimes people will chase or will try to achieve through exercise. Another relationship that people might have with exercise is wanting to achieve and to feel worthy through exercise. So sometimes this can be driven by parents, sometimes it can be driven by people around us. For some people, they don't even have a family who are big into sport, but they got really big into sport because they started to notice that achieving different sporting milestones made them feel really good. And so it can be helpful just to reflect on whether you are doing sport to achieve something, to say that you've done a particular race, or that you've done a particular event, or that you've made a specific time. If you could do it and not tell anyone, would you still want to do it? Sometimes our self-worth is tied up in that sense of achievement, because if you have achieved a lot in sport, it might have given you a sense of an identity as being a sports person, or being a cyclist, or being a swimmer. That can be really hard then when you get unwell, because your identity, your sense of self is challenged by not being able to do that. But when you're well enough to start exercising again, it really can help to reflect on that and to build a new relationship with sport and exercise that is healthier, so that you're not relying on sport to prop up your self-esteem. It can also be something that people do to feel like they belong. So if their family were all into sport, or their circle of friends were all into sport, they might feel a deep sense of not belonging by not doing sport and taking part in that particular sport that their community are involved in. And again, this can be related to a sense of self-worth and feeling like they need to do what others are doing in order to feel like they're worthy and like they belong. This can be tied in with achievement as well. So if you grew up and all of your siblings were achieving lots in sport, or your parents had achieved a lot in a particular sport, it might mean a lot to you to feel like you fit in, or you belong, or you stand up to the achievements of others around you. Another thing that can come with sport is positive feedback. For some people, most of the positive feedback they got in life was through doing well in sport. And that might be from coaches and people who were around them whilst they were practicing that sport. So it can help to notice if that's something that has played a role in your past, or if that's the reason why you still want to do sport, to get that positive feedback. And there's nothing wrong with liking positive feedback, but if that was attention that you got when you were younger and you didn't get attention anywhere else, it might feel much more important to you than just doing sport to enjoy it. So over a year ago, in about May, of last year, I joined a triathlon club and I started swimming, and I hadn't run in over 10 years because of injuries, which were actually mind-body pain, but at the time I didn't realize that. In 2017, before I had any idea about the mind-body approach, I'd actually started reading some positive psychology books and had reflected on the fact that I was really not very optimistic about being able to run again and about my injuries going away. And one of the reasons for that was because doctors had told me that I would never get better and that I would have chronic pain for the rest of my life. I was given no solution or idea of anything I could do to help myself. So I just assumed that that would be the case. But reading the positive psychology books helped me create a vision in which I could actually possibly run in the future and do a triathlon. I wasn't very optimistic about it because I didn't know how I was going to do this, but I thought, oh well, maybe it would be possible. And then after finding this approach and recovering from long COVID and chronic fatigue syndrome, I decided that I would start training for a triathlon because that was my original goal if I'm ever able to run again. So this summer I did a couple of aquathons, which are swim, run events, and a couple of triathlons, so a sprint and an Olympic distance triathlon, which was really such a pinch me moment because I did not imagine that I would be able to do this. And whilst I was cycling around with a view of the sea, I was thinking about how I had been in bed and how at that time I would have given anything to be able to cycle and look at the sea and swim and run and cycle in the same day. And I really do feel so grateful and so relieved and happy that that has been possible, because it's not really about the triathlon itself. It's about the fact that I now understand where my symptoms came from and how to manage them in future if symptoms do arise. That really gives me so much power and is so helpful for me to feel confident and comfortable in life in general, and trust that my body is okay, and trust that I would be able to work towards something and achieve it. Because having years of chronic pain, you're always doubting what you'd be able to do and when you'd get pain and when an injury is going to get in the way of something. Some of the other things that really helped me during this process was starting to look into recovery and training and understanding why people train in specific ways, and really learning that people who are training in an effective way are often really considering recovery into their training, and they are loading their body in a way that helps their body recover best. So that might be mixing between zone 2 training, which is like a low heart rate training, and more intense training. I think in the past, when I was younger, I thought, the harder and the longer you exercise, the better the effect. And I'm realizing that that is not the case. And it actually makes me feel a lot more relaxed and comfortable in knowing that I don't have to push myself to the very edge physically in order to get results. And this understanding has helped me create a lot more balance. Another thing that I've really been considering is how much I enjoy different things, because I love sport, but there's actually a lot of different sports that I love. And training for the triathlon was really great to do because I'd wanted to do it for so long. But also there were times on long cycles where I didn't really enjoy being on the cycle. And so whilst it might be something I'll continue, I also want to make sure that my time is spent really well, so that I'm putting most time into sports I really, really enjoy and love. And then generally reflecting on my relationship with sport has been helpful, because whenever I notice a part of me feeling like I should train when actually I feel unwell, or a sense of drive to achieve something, when I have a suspicion that actually this isn't just something I'm doing for enjoyment, I'm trying to achieve, or I'm trying to cope with an emotion by doing more of this, or use it as avoidance. Just regularly reflecting on that has been really helpful for me to just build up a sense of confidence and trust in myself and my own decisions, that I am able to establish a balance that's healthy with exercise. And I think sometimes being unwell does put things into perspective in a different way, because our time is so valuable, and it doesn't make sense to go back living the way that we lived before if that was dysfunctional, if we were exercising just to avoid an emotion, or if we were trying to achieve something just to feel better about ourselves, because in the short term it might feel good, but in the long term it doesn't actually work. And it's way more fulfilling to be able to do things in a relaxed way, or in a way where you can establish a sense of balance and actually feel a reduced sense of pressure and the freedom to just do things that you enjoy. So let me know what your experience is of getting back into sport after recovering, or whilst you're still in the phase of recovery, because of course starting to do sport whilst recovering is sometimes challenging and sometimes brings up different feelings. It can be hard to establish that sense of balance. Let me know if you found this video helpful. If you're interested in coaching or following me on Instagram or Facebook, there are links in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.